Carney slashes tariffs on Chinese EVs, breaking with bipartisan U.S. policy. Prime Minister Mark Carney concluded his trip in China by announcing that Canada will pull back on its tariffs targeting Chinese electric vehicles, a move which breaks with a United States policy. Carney said that in exchange for a small piece of the Canadian car market, he expects that Chinese auto companies will make investments in Canada, including eventually building a factory. "That's the plan," he said in French when speaking to reporters in Beijing on January 16. The announcement came as Canada is seeking to repair and expand ties with China in a bid to diversify non-US exports and draw in new investments. Carney said that Canada is now forging a new partnership with China. The Prime Minister's office said to fully realize that partnership Ottawa is modifying the current duties placed on Chinese EVs. As part of an agreement to remove trade barriers, the PMO said it expects China will slash its tariffs on Canadian agricultural and seafood products in the coming weeks. Those tariffs were imposed in March 2025 in retaliation for Canadian tariffs on Chinese EVs, steel, and aluminum. Based on the agreement, Canada will remove its 100% surtax on up to 49,000 Chinese EVs per year, which will be tariffed under the Most Favored Nation tariff rate of 6.1%. The number of Chinese EVs being included in the tariff rate quota will increase in the following years to reach about 70,000 after 5 years, Carney told reporters on January 16. Canada had placed the 100% tariff on Chinese EVs in late 2024, under the Liberal government of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The move followed similar measures implemented by the Biden administration, which like the Liberals also intended to boost the domestic production of EVs and increase consumer uptake through incentives. U.S. President Donald Trump took office in January 2025 and stopped favoring EVs, letting federal subsidies expire. He has kept, however, the 100% tariff on Chinese EVs. While visiting a Ford Motor Company plant earlier this week, Trump said China is taking over the car market in Europe, whereas his tariffs have allowed U.S. manufacturers to thrive. The European Union maintains a level of duties on Chinese cars, but those have increasingly gained market shares in recent years. In Europe, China's taking over the auto business, he said on January 13. And here, what is it? We have 100% tariff on any car coming in from China, so that makes able to do very nicely against China. Carney has faced pressure from the Canadian car industry and Ontario Premier Doug Ford, whose province is where most car plants are located, about the need to maintain the tariffs on China in place. Carney defended that the amount of Chinese EVs getting the low tariff rate is equivalent to only 3% of the car market. "We're returning to the levels of Chinese automobiles as a cap that we had 2 years ago," Carney said. As part of the deal with China, the PMO said it expects China will lower its tariffs on canola seed from around 85% to 15% by March 1. Furthermore, Canada expects other Canadian goods such as canola meal, peas, crabs, and lobsters will no longer be subjects to anti-discrimination tariffs also from March 1. Premier Ford reacted negatively to the deal between Ottawa and Beijing, saying that China will now have a foothold in the Canadian market and will use it to their full advantage at the expense of Canadian workers. Ford said the deal was made without any guarantee or promise of immediate investments in Canada's economy. The Premier said Ottawa, to fix this mess, should move to support Ontario's car industry by dropping the EV mandate and federal fees, making the industry less competitive. Meanwhile, Saskatchewan Premier Mo, whose province has been severely impacted by Chinese tariffs on canola, welcomed the deal reached by Carney. "This deal is a very positive signal that will restore existing trade volumes and open avenues for further opportunities for Canadians," he said. Carney breaking with the United States on Chinese EVs came a few days after an editorial in a Chinese Communist Party media outlet said that Ottawa needed to take its distances from Washington if it wants closer ties with Beijing. The 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles the Trudeau government imposed in 2024 following the U.S. lead remains, the China Daily wrote on January 12. If Ottawa still chooses to subject its China policy to the will of Washington again in the future, it will only render its previous efforts to mend ties with Beijing in vain.